right? When we don't have that moral leader.
Says that this is the key issue of our time, the original sin, then few presidents have said that. So we go from there. I tend to think that that it's a time to bring together people on over all fronts. I think that, at least I hope, that this president will get a message that the nation will not accept this and that people will start coming together. Now, out of this, you've seen great coalitions develop of the young black and white youth. I've never seen as many white youth protesting for anything. I was around the Vietnam War. You had many, but they didn't join with blacks. So you have these instances. I think that if the Senate and the Congress changes, which I suspect it might, there will be a day to. Now here's the other thing, and that has to be very important. In most cases, in many cases since the Civil Rights Movement, when we've had these racial disturbances, the federal authorities were called in to help quell them. And that was what happened under the Obama administration. The federal law, because state laws generally don't work. States generally don't do it. In this case, we've gone backwards, where the federal government has not used its civil rights authorities. And so now I think it's a chance through this election, if it goes as I would hope it is, to change all that for the federal government to enforce. When you have a president that says no longer will we allow the government to have sensitivity training and race training and gender training about inequality, then we know we're taking big steps backwards. I think the lessons are that, and as the young man said, he sometimes feels that we go back and forward. The question is to keep going forward, and I think we're going to move in that direction.
Derek, I can see you nodding away. What were you going to add?
Yeah, I mean, look, I concur with everything that Dr. Jackson has said. What I would also say, though, is like these issues weren't created by Donald Trump. He's exacerbated them. And throughout our history here in the United States, we've had these moments in which we have needed to move forward, and at times we move backwards. So when, in this moment in time, right, when we don't have that moral leadership nationally, when we have the application of the federal government, when we need them the most, it's due to a number of reasons. One, incompetence for sure. Two, apathy. But three, I think there's really for this particular president, in particular in this time, he wants to stoke those divisions. And look, have the progress made since the 1960s? Absolutely. Are we a better country today than we were, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Without a doubt. But is there a lot of work to be done? Absolutely. And right now, we don't have that moral leadership. We don't have the direction that we need to be heading in. And, November is going to be an absolutely telling moment for our country. But I will also say that, again, I kind of get back to this hope thing, right? Dr. Jackson kind of talked about it. Like, there's this hope that we will change direction come November. It's not guaranteed. And there are forces that are doing their damnedest to make sure that Trump stays in the White House.
Okay, you mentioned there, you talked there about Donald Trump didn't start this. This is systemic. This is at the very, root of American society, around the world, in fact. Seneca, to that end, when federal agents were sent into Portland, how did that change the dynamic?
It changed it because it became a curiosity thing for the citizens of Portland that stood in a bunker, that slept in their bunker and was in their safe place. It became a curiosity issue, so mass loads of people showed up just to see exactly what it was about. So their presence, and then the way they responded to just law-abiding citizens was very detrimental in the way this movement kicked, I guess made it turn for the better. Because it really exposed everything that you guys are talking about now. It exposed it, and it became a not so. How can I put it? It was this fight was a fight of people with nothing to lose. It's initially. It quickly became a fight of people with lots to lose. and that's what happened when they came in and the air was tested with the gas. And I mean, it was actually if you seen anything on the news, I was part of the Justice Center, which is actually I mean, it's people held in the building like it's people that's not been tried yet, people that's in jail that's held in the building. They were actually suffering from the gas and couldn't even call for help. You know, it tested everything. I mean, as far as when the federal agents came in and all the, I mean, it was gagged sometimes 3 times a day.
Derek,
And people just.
I want to come back to this idea of the. Sorry to interrupt. I want to come back to the because we're running out of time. The idea you sort of touched on it, the narrative that Donald Trump is putting forward about these protests. He's actually been described as you know, these are the efforts, the last-ditch efforts of a desperate man who's trailing in the polls and whose coronavirus response has come under criticism. What's your take? Do you agree with that?
I do. I mean, again, we've seen reckless leadership from Donald Trump related to COVID. We've seen it related to the unrest that we're seeing in the streets. And, you know, he has made no bones about it that he's going to do everything that he can to get reelected. And so that's what we're fighting against, right? We are fighting against someone who cannot, he's incapable of being able to speak to our better angels. He's incapable of calling us to do better and to be better. And he is stoking those divisions. That's why he calls, you know, to Dr. Jackson's point, right? When you have these white supremacists that are shooting people with paint guns or worse in Portland and other places, he calls them great patriots because they have Donald Trump signs. But when you have people like Seneca who are out there standing on the front lines fighting for racial justice, fighting for a better America, they're considered thugs. And it's that language, that narrative that Donald Trump is trying to exploit. We know who he is. He's been a racist for a really long time. He violated the Fair Housing Act of 1968 multiple times, right? He has called the Central Park 5 inhuman. And he's done all these things. These little things that have been a part of American history when you want to categorize someone as the other. And that's the narrative that he is putting out there. But the media has a responsibility to make sure that they're calling not only him out on it, but holding people accountable when they are not actually doing it. You know, and not using the words appropriately.
Absolutely. Language is so important. Maurice, I want to come back to you. Where do you see this movement as going, or how do you see it changing, evolving, and what are your hopes about changing, more structural issues?
Well, I'm quite hopeful. You know, I was away. I've been away. I was in Doha, Qatar.